There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Check it out. I've been working on these videos. All right, we're back. If you look closely at the video, it says 6 p.m., but we realized 6:30 probably was a better time for most people. So we wanted to make it at that particular time. Okay, let me stop this. And we're back. We're back on, and that's the thing about, of course, doing a live video. You got to be able to navigate all of these things. And I tell people, I do have experience, but I'm probably only at 50% of my experience being able to do this. So it's still a growth process doing Zoom and doing Facebook Live, but I have found out that I'm at pretty good level, and people are still trying to catch up. But the main thing is to have a platform to express yourself, and I'm very thankful for that. Again, this is our 136th episode, and if you want to see any past episodes, you can look at Sourceseeker Community on YouTube. We have all our past episodes, also the episodes of Sunny Side with Jeff Walker, the sports show, our sports take show. And that's very exciting that I have that available to do. So I enjoy doing this. It's a great part to be able to assist and help my soul. And I appreciate everybody who comes on there. And I have a group of guests that have come on since we started this, probably 4 years ago. We started it at 6767 Southwest Freeway, Afro Vibes, and we did our first 35 episodes, and we're on 136 now. So after 35 episodes, we really started going into Zoom, Facebook Live, and it is both are good, but in this world, you have to be flexible. And some people enjoy coming into the studio. Some people, they can't do that. So we like to have both opportunities to do both things, and we appreciate it. So we look forward to any guests joining us or people who are on Facebook. I'm gonna go back and look at that. If you're on Facebook, chime in, and I'll get back to you, and I'll bring it on the air, and we'll discuss it. But first, I want to talk about hopes and dreams. And hopes and dreams and how they affect mental health. And the ideal behind this is that, do we in Western society in America get so caught up into our hopes and dreams that we become unrealistic, and it becomes a burden to us in our mentality and mental health? And that's a fine line, because if you don't have hopes and dreams, how can you really achieve anything? But if you got unfounded or unrealistic hopes and dreams, and who can define that for us? What is unrealistic for you may not be unrealistic for me. You can't tell me what I can achieve. Nobody can tell me what I can achieve. I have to tell me that. So am I honest with myself and what I can achieve? And am I pushing to the limit of what I can achieve? But these things, this mentality, causes people a lot of problems. So I think I've accomplished a lot. I've written 8 books, but I think if if I really pushed myself and really got to the highest level of my ability, maybe I could have gotten to 40 books. So I appreciate what I've done, but I look to do more. And I thank God that I'm still relatively healthy now. I've had some spiritual mental health problems. I've had some physical problems. But at 61 years old, I'm very grateful for everything that I have. I'm able to talk, I'm able to walk, I'm able to discern. And I look forward to the next years that God gives me. And I'm very thankful for that. My first question is that I want to put out there, and of course, we're by ourselves. Only those who are on Facebook will be able to join in. Apart from the difficulty of life, what is our purpose? What is our purpose? Is it procreation? Is it to multiply and prosper? Is that our only purpose? What is our purpose? I mean, that's a fine question that man has asked all life. Man has asked that question all life. I would say our purpose is to live to the highest level of our ability. I just had my brother, the ambassador of the group that we're in, Brother Christopher Times, a brother from Galveston, who I just sat down and had a very spiritual conversation with. That I was very thankful for that. It meant a lot, that conversation that I was able to have. It helped me to solidify my spirit that had got off kilter for a second. Are you hearing me, Brother Times?
Yes.
I was explaining to the audience that that conversation that I had with you was very important because I was off kilter, and I knew I was off kilter. And there are times when you just have to help reset yourself. And I've done that throughout my life. And I thank God for the ability to see that, to be honest with myself, and to be able to do what it is. And what some people, they can, they go to AA meetings, they go to, go talk to a professional. I did talk to a professional yourself, as well as I did my own meditation to be able to help myself. And I'm not saying I'm totally 1000% reset and everything is hunky-dory, but that's life.
Yeah.
That's life. And it's one day at a time. And you just have to be honest with yourself and keep going. But you try to balance and make things go in the right way. And the first question that I asked before you came was, with the difficulties and the challenges and the triumphs that we have in life, what is our purpose? What is the purpose that God has created us to accomplish? What's your answer?
That's a great question. My purpose really has definitely changed over the years, but right now, my purpose is to help humanity, to be able to teach in the ways that you actually articulated, and to be that healer in the community. That's my purpose now, So for you, it might be just being that listening ear, right? Maybe give some wisdom, maybe talk about some spiritual things, maybe talk about some religious things, maybe talk about whatever, but we all need that connection. I've learned that. I've learned that even when I don't feel good. I had a down day just the other day, but see, I was in in the house all the time, and I was in the house too much, see, Baruti? And I know that when that happens, I need to get out. I need to connect. And once I do that, I feel a lot better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I've done that. You know, I be in the house all stuck in here, and then my ex-wife will bother me and say, hey, come and take me here, come and take me there. And I grumble and say, I don't want to, but I get up and do it. And I feel so much better after I do it. You know,
Yeah.
well, first of all, I feel better because I have eliminated the possibility of her nagging me and bothering me. But at the same time, I know I need that. I know I need that sometimes. And, you know, so, and I just want to interject this. Those of you who are out there that are in relationships that you've had really dark times, don't just put that in stone. If you can find a place of common interest and being able to work together with a former mate, a baby mama, that is a good thing. I have 3 kids and we come together for our 3 kids. We don't have any physical relationships other than hugs and, you know, handshakes and all of that stuff, but we at a higher level. We are at a higher level. I'm not saying that's not as important, but as you get older, it's not as important, but touch is always important.
Yeah.
Touch is always important. So we do have touch, but that's not the main thing of our relationship and friendship. The main thing of our friendship is our 1000% pursuit of trying to help our 3 kids. And we work together for that. And going back to purpose, Brother Times, I think that's a part of purpose also, to be able to instill what God has instilled in you into others, and it starts within your own circle. And that's why the scripture says, let your light shine like a lampstand.
Yeah.
You know, you brighten your light and then you let it shine out to others. And that's very important. And what I have seen, even though sometimes I don't see it, is people see it in me. And I try to recognize that and make sure that I am trying to let my light shine. Right. And if my light is not shining, if I'm doing something to cause it to dampen, I'm trying to find a way to get past that. And it's not always an easy thing, because we go through ups and downs, depressions, and different things. So comment on that purpose. Again, what is our purpose out there? Well, we're on Facebook Live also. Comment on somebody out there. They want to know their purpose, and they have to define that themselves. Everybody is unique in that context, but there are some commonalities that we could talk about. Talk about that, Brother Times.
Well, you know, there are certain surveys that you can take, or let me just get psychological for a minute. There are certain tests that psychologists like myself can give you. And one of them is a Myers-Briggs assessment, right? And what is that? That's just a tool to let you know what your purpose work is, right? So what does Myers do? Myers-Briggs evaluates you. It's like, it takes about—
Let me interject. Are you saying Myers, M-Y-E-R-S?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so a psychologist can give you that test. It's no right or wrong answer to it. It basically measures your strengths, right? And then it computes them, and it calculates them, and it gives you the results. like a mathematical equation. So give you an example. I am an INJ, I believe. They have lots of different results that they can compute. And this one lines up with my personality. And like I said, it takes, I don't know, 30 minutes, 45 minutes to take the test. But once you're done with it, then it'll calculate for you what kind of personality you have. And oh, by the way, what types of things, like professional things, that you might be good at. And oh, by the way, you might be so good at it that it's really your calling. You know what I mean? So it you hone down your strengths, and it helps you, access them. Maybe I'm a good talker. Maybe I'm a good listener. Maybe I'm a good communicator. So it'll say you might be a good public speaker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe you're a good preacher. Maybe you're a good teacher, right? Maybe you might make a good whatever. It'll tell you that kind of stuff. So then you can make a determination. Oh, wow, I missed that part of myself. I didn't realize I was that good at whatever, And then you could make some adjustments, because sometimes you could be brutally miserable at whatever job you're doing because it's really not your purpose. You know what I mean?
Right. I was just explaining before you came on that, I was always a writer. As a young man in the 9th grade, I started writing then. And I wrote because I was shy, but I love to express myself. And so I would write things down and write in detail. And as I got older, I did more. But as I got older, I learned how to verbally express myself. I got better at verbally expressing myself. And then once I started doing the Sourceseeker Hour, before that, I was shy. I was still shy. But once I started doing the Sourceseeker Hour, it started bringing out this personality even more. And it helped to change me in that context. So we're at episode 136, and I have grown along with it. I want to talk about this, Brother Times. We're going to come back to purpose. This world that we are living in, on the peripheral vision, if you look at the daily news, there's so many crazy things that are happening. I mean, if you just talk about the escapades of our, I just calling him our brother Donald Trump, who just got his 3rd indictment. Also, there are so many things happening. Athletes are making gazillions of dollars, which seems totally out of sorts from what the normal layperson has to deal with, know. But and it kind of makes us jaded sometimes. All of these things that are happening, you say, oh, man, this world is just crazy. How do we make sense of it? How do we make sense? Is this the world that was intended? So, I mean, how do you keep from being jaded? How do you make sense of this world that we live in as a product of a great high being? How do you?
Well, it can be difficult because, what makes me tick might be a totally different thing that makes, say, you tick or a guy like Donald Trump, And so I think the thing is to find out what's my niche, right? Where do I fit in? And a lot of times, we make mistakes. I have, trying to fit in somewhere where I just don't have any business fitting in. See, hanging with the wrong crowd, trying to fit in with certain people, and there's really no fit there at all. And so I find that, you know, that helps a lot, and I think innately also, Baruti, we tend to find each other. I don't know how that happens, but I found that I'm always hanging around preachers, teachers, theologians or teachers, also people who like to help folks, psychologists, therapists. I hang around these people all the time, and it's odd. It doesn't matter where I go. I always run into these same kind of folks, So yeah, it's really interesting. I really think that we find each other or connect with each other innately somehow. What do you think about that?
I think, yes, that is true. But one of the things that happens in life is and I think we talked about this earlier, that sometimes when you're on your journey of trying to find yourself, you'll come across people who think they know who you are and who you should be. And
right.
And if you're not totally sure where you are, you may try to adjust to fit in, as you said, with those particular people. And so it becomes, an up and down thing, and it causes issues with your own self. And that's a part of the journey. But once you come to a understanding of who you are yourself, and that happens for different times with different people, as well as you have to have a support system that helps you to solidify yourself until you can find yourself.
Right.
At 61, I'm not asking somebody for validation of who I am and so forth, but at 21, I was. So
right.
You go through all of those particular things, and it's a part of the journey that we go through. I want to introduce my brother, Sadiki Johnson. We are talking about hopes and dreams and mental health. And one of the things our first question was, what is our purpose in this world? That if you believe in a supreme being, and that's a question for some people, not for me, but it is for some people. And I allow the expression of thought on that. But what is our purpose in life? Can you answer that, Brother Sadiki?
Well, I can try, but I think each of us have a purpose that we know. I don't know. Again, the whole idea of the supreme being, where our purpose comes from, how that comes to us. The easiest way to say it is that there's a higher power, but I can't explain exactly why it's there or what's there, but it's there. We have to flow with it because we're connected to everything. I think everything is connected. So I think
Are you talking about matter, energy? You talking about
I think everything,
humanity?
I think everything is matter, energy. We're all connected on some level together. So I think that we are designed to fulfill the continuation of this universe that we're all part of. And so we have each person's purpose is unique, but it fits into that same framework, I think, to help to add to this universe, this connection that we're all part of. So that's what I think our purpose is to continue to play our part in this universe.
I was saying also that, okay, my fault, I cut you off.
No, that's finished. Yeah, play our
Okay,
part in this universe.
I was saying it takes a while to understand your purpose. You know, a part of my purpose is to help shine my light, and a part of my light is trying to encourage my kids to become a light. And from that light, other lights can generate, because if I can touch my kids and they can touch other people, then my light, as the Bible says, my light can be shine like a lampstand, and it can go brighter and brighter until it encompasses a larger circle. I believe in circles being able to become larger, and as they become larger, your influence, your purpose grows, and I believe that is a part of why we're here. But as you said, it looks differently for different people. That looks differently. You know, some may not have that relationship with their kids, or may not have any kids, and then their purpose is looks differently than mine would, and so forth. What do you think about that, Brother Times?
Yeah, I think you guys are on the right track. You know, the way I teach it to my clients that I have is that, you know, God created everything so that it can connect with the universe. When you look at how fish swim in the ocean, you see the connection. You can observe it with your eyes, right? There are very few animals that swim alone in the ocean, but most fish swim in schools, right? When you look at birds, most birds, not all, but most birds fly, you know, in flocks, right? You could see how they change. It's almost like intuitive how they're communicating in flight, right? You look at just about anything in nature, except for your predators, they all communicate. Whales do. You know, most things in nature do that. Even trees. The root systems of every tree on Earth literally communicate through neurological impulses through their root system. Science has figured that out. Well, heck, if that's the case, then how can I be isolated in my own little bubble, in my own little home, or wherever, and not communicate? I think that's a good recipe for depression, because when you cut yourself off or are cut off from other people, then now you're functioning in a dysfunctional way. Why? Because you're not designed to function that way. You
Talking about this design, I'm going back to what I was talking about. The world it looks so crazy, and there's so many things happening. I mentioned about Donald Trump on his third indictment. Doesn't seem like anything is going to happen to him. I heard about this woman on her fourth husband, just killed her 2 kids here in Houston, a beautiful looking white woman. These kind of things that seem like they make sense. And wherever you look, there's some ugliness and craziness happening. And it seems like, you know, how can this make sense? How can we not get so down on life with all of these things happening, but at the same time, it's so beautiful, and it just seems to not make sense, but it makes sense at the same time. And I don't know how can we explain it other than it's a higher power, and we must have a purpose that we don't totally understand, but it's a difficult thing to wrap your head around, but you just have to continue on. What do you say about the world that we live in and the things that are going on, brother Sadiki?
Oh, it's just crazy. I mean, not crazy, it's natural progression, I guess, of what happens when people start losing connection with each other and losing their purpose. We seem like we're functioning like a disconnected world to me.
Right.
Yeah, but you know, we tend to think that life is just gotten worse now, but if you look back through history, it's really been the same things going on. Same things, is just different tools available to cause more harm, more chaos. And so it's always been a progression of life, and it's really not anything different. If you look back in the Middle Ages or 1600s, man against man has always been. Man has always looked for advantages, had disabilities and different circumstances that he was able to access and be able to make happen and not make happen and so forth. It's just according to the situation. But with all that happening, is this the world that God intended? Now, the question is, and we had this conversation, Brother Times, some say the world like this is because it doesn't have order. It's not planned. It's not supposed to go in this particular way. It's just a matter of chaos. Then others say, hey, this is all a part of God's design. What do you say about that?
I say that initially, so let's just go back to the beginning. When God created Adam and Eve, first humans on the earth, I think everything was perfect. That's what the Bible says. Everything was created like it's supposed to be, but it got messed up. You know, when you are dealing with creation, in particular, let me contrast it with dark and light, right? Or good and evil, right? I believe that there's such a thing as good and evil. When you're looking at that, and oh, by the way, the concept of free will, I believe God put in every human being, every sentient being has the capacity to choose. That's free will. So with that, you've got a lot of things that can happen with one human being. So we've got infinite choices. Depending on what we choose to do, our outcome will follow that. And so God allows us that, okay? Right, because that's how he designed us. It's the same with you, Baruti, or you, Don, the same thing. And so when you start looking at your hopes and dreams and all of this stuff, we've got choices. Always we've got choices to make. Am I gonna do this or that? All of us have those choices. And so depending on how we choose, that really dictates what's getting ready to happen in our lives and around us at all times.
Let me ask this question, Brother Times, and let me interject. So you're saying that God made the world perfect, but then Adam and Eve at that particular time, because of what they did, that disrupted the perfect world that we live in. And that's where things started going wrong. And from that time, it's just been a progression.
Absolutely. If you look at the Bible story in Genesis, what does it say? That Adam and Eve in a perfect garden setting, they wouldn't being eaten up by lions or anything. They were walking around naked. According to the scripture, until they made that fatal choice to disobey God, right? And what was the disobedience? God told them, hey, there are two trees in the middle of the garden. Don't eat of one of them. That was the instruction, okay? Don't eat of one of them. And that's the tree of knowledge. They were forbidden to eat from that tree, but the other tree, they were allowed to eat as much as they wanted. And that was the tree of life. Well, they got duped, call them a serpent or whatever, but they got duped. And so they made a choice. We're going back to the choice thing. Do I go to the left or to the right? Do I choose right or wrong, right? Do I go to the tree of life that I can eat it all I want, or do I go to the other tree? See, that was the problem. And they made the wrong choice, messed up everything.
So are we saying that the perfect being that created the world set it up so that, you know, it could fall like that? I mean, and basically it becomes a chess game of humanity? Why would that be the case? I mean, it seems like that wouldn't make sense. However, that's beyond our thinking, of course. I agree. But you know that there are other theories as to how things started, went down. I'll just pose one of them. First of all, life is much older than the theory of Adam and Eve, and the story of Adam and Eve came from other civilizations that went back much further than that, and that was just a story that was written down by the Hebrews in the Bible and so forth at that time. And if you go through the history of the Bible, you know that, I forgot the numbers of the documents or the letters of the documents and the writers of the documents, but there's a part of the historical theory that says that life, of course, is much older than what is posed in that, and then it didn't necessarily go just that way. What is your theory about that, brother Sadiki?
I just don't know, and I can't trust the theories of the whole creation story of Adam and Eve as the absolute understanding of why and how God put people together in the world. But I still agree that, because of our free will and because we have a choice on how we live in this world, that the way it's working now is the way it's designed to work, and we're making out of it what we're making out of it. It could
one thing I will say, and I'm gonna come back to you, brother Sadiki, is before all of the technologies came about, people were a lot more spiritual. If you look at the history just look at the history of the Bible, there was no radio, TV, so forth and so on. And of course, the way that people communicated is by being a storyteller, a griot. Of course, the history of the Bible is said to be passed down by storytelling. It's said to be passed down, and then somebody finally wrote it down. But you have to include other civilizations' theology and history also. The oldest religion is the Hindu religion, and they have a history with the Vedas and the Upanishads that they talk about. If you talk about the Buddha, and I forgot how you pronounce his name, but that's a history also. And both of those histories were away from the Western culture of where the Christian civilization, grew up. And so, some will say that only the Christian religion is valid, but I don't believe that. I believe all humanity is of God. Now, we just have different languages. We have different ways of looking at the world, but I still say this, there's one common circle of do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And karma, what you throw at and treat somebody in one way may come back to you. So, and that pretty much principle is everywhere in the world, and it works like that. So there are so many things in life that are unanswerable for us, and I don't believe that it was supposed to be. I think there is a knowledge, but it has to be pieced together, and we as normal human beings beyond the super spiritual realm cannot access that. It's at another level. It's like when Jesus, he prayed and he transfigured. Yes, he became one with God then, but he became other than human, in my opinion. Brother Tynes, what you think about that? We talked about that.
Yeah, and I got a little bit different take on it. I think that he was really born of a virgin. I think it was immaculate conception. God really can do anything. And the reason I believe that is not just because the Bible says it, but if you look at God being the creator of all things, supreme being in the universe, right?
Okay.
Remember what I said about humans.
Let me ask this question before you finish your point. Are we looking at God as being an anthropomorphic entity?
No,
Okay.
I'm not. God's spirit. That's what the scripture says.
Okay, yes, sir.
Right. And so when you look at the choices that mankind has made, right? We messed up. And just like anything, once you go so far down the rabbit hole, it's kind of hard to turn around. Maybe you can't, you get lost. I think that's when God introduced Jesus into the flesh to right the ship, right? And so to make a bridge, right? Because folk have gone on so long, things have gotten so messed up to where something had to change. And I think that change was supernatural, not natural. And that's why I believe that Jesus had to come on the scene in order to correct things. Now, are things...
But I would pose this theory to you, or I would pose this. If you look at mankind before BC and then AD, are we seeing changes? Mankind, Cain and Abel, Cain killed Abel before Christ, and then man killed his brother after Christ. What is there a difference? Where's the difference?
Yes, that's what perfect question, Brood, and I'm going there right now. The difference is, I believe, in the spiritual relationship. Now, the physical is still messed up. It don't take much to figure that out.
Okay.
Right? People still fighting each other, still killing each other, folks still jealous of each other, right? They still having wars, all kind of craziness going on. But the spiritual is the piece that changed. The spiritual piece changed. So what is that? Your relationship to your brother, your fellow man, your relationship to your God. That's what changed. That's what I believe Jesus did on the cross. Man, people wanted to kill him. Why? Because he was doing good? Think about that for a minute now. Think about that for a minute now. He didn't do nothing wrong, but they killed him because...
In the context of the story, you got to admit he was doing a lot wrong in what they considered. What they considered he was doing was he was a super rebel back at that time. He was a super rebel. As you know, the Romans mostly the Sadducees and the Pharisees had a problem with it.
They the only ones had a problem with it, because remember, Pontius Pilate said, I don't want to have nothing to do with this. You know? So really, Brother Don, I'm gonna agree with you on this point right here. The religious order of the world is messed up. It always has been. I'm a preacher, and I can tell you that. Always been messed up. Why? Because of what Barudi's talking about. See, God did not create that system. I'm pretty sure he didn't. Because Jesus, when he showed up on the scene, what did he do? Jesus began to school all of those Pharisees and Sadducees. It's right there in the record. And they got angry about that. He did take them to school now, and they didn't like that. And they put him on the cross because of it. Why? It's about pride, arrogance. I know more than you. And then they tried to trap Jesus with theological arguments and things. And Jesus won every one of them. And they were embarrassed. And they were like, look, we're going to kill him. That's what happened.
Yeah, I mean, that is a part of the logical thing. And that is a good point on that. Brother Sadiki, do you want to comment on what Brother Times was saying?
No, I that whole history is pretty well documented. But we're all connected, you know, and you know why God decided to interject when he created us with free will and we are functioning like he created us to function. Why he decided to interject? What state were we in a worse state then than we are right now?
That's a good question, Don.
I'm not sure if God functions that way in the world. That's why I question this whole religious framework around how we're put together. All I know is that and feel is that we're connected, and if you're connected and everything's connected, and you're in a pretty well closed system, and you throw something out, it's very likely it's going to affect you too.
Yes, you're right.
So it really behooves you, if you use your intelligence and use all the gifts that God gave us to cooperate and make the world better. And we could do that. But we just decided we have it because we are greedy. And I don't know. Greedy. I don't know. I don't know exactly what we're just easily. I don't know what it is. I don't know why we're so stupid, because it's so clear that if we function together, that we could change
I mean, it's obvious to me, because one man, you know, he wants to have what he wants to have. And, you know, you might have to take a look. It's like the Indians were on their, you know, their area. And then the white man came and said, well, I want that area, even though the Indians was already there. And they said, well, you don't deserve to be there. And who decided that? Instead of going to another area that nobody
they didn't even have that ownership mindset about property and living in the world. So it was a whole different mindset. They just come in and want to own. So that's how they were able to grab stuff, because they didn't even think about owning something like that. You know, it was part of everybody.
And I understand that. I mean, they said, hey, this is God's earth, and you know, we all supposed to share in this. Then the white man said, no, I want this plot of land because I want to do things my way, and I don't want to be near you doing things your way. And you know, I'm better than you. My way of life is better. Instead of having respect for, I'm gonna let you live your way, and I live my way, and the world is big enough for both of us to live. They didn't want that.
No.
And, you know, they wanted to make sure that, okay, I can enforce my way on others and don't have to even look at anybody else but because I want my way to be the way that everybody does. I want everybody to follow my way, which is the arrogance of man. He wants everybody to do things in his particular way, and that has always been one of the causes of war, where everybody says, I want my things my way, and you want things your way, and then you can't get along, and you gotta have a blood fight. And that's what it comes down to. And that goes back to Cain and Abel.
Oh, that's how that went down, didn't it?
Yeah.
It was jealousy, envy, Cain against, and see, but see that's the heart of man. It's in everybody. Dr. Maya Angelou is one of my favorite authors and philosophers. And she said it something like this. She said that, and she got it from, I forgot, from another philosopher, but she says that it's in every human being to do the worst thing, basically. It is, because it's a part of our condition, but we have that choice, you see. She would say things like that negative things tend to stick to things, like your words, right, have power. And she said that they will hang on to things. She had rules for her house. She didn't allow people to come in her house and say negative things about anybody. She would ask you to leave. I used to actually write Dr. Angelo back in 2006 and stuff. So we actually corresponded a little bit through pen and paper, but she was amazing like that. She had figured it out, but Jesus said the same thing. He said to the Sadducees and Pharisees, these legalistic religious folks, he said they tried to trick him. And they said, well, which is the most, the greatest law? They tried to trick him. And Jesus said, love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. And he said the second law, greatest law, is just like the first one, to love your brother as yourself. Those are the only two rules that Jesus set forth. He said, on those two, all of the laws that God ever written depends on them. If you can keep them two.
But if we're honest, Brother Times, we also got to say that when he was at the table and they was asking him about eating at the table, and let me get it right, or close to right as I can. He said, eating from the table or eating from with this particular person is like eating with a dog. He was talking about people outside of the part of the group he was with. He said that, and he was talking about that in that context. Yes, they tried to trick him. The story of the coin is them trying to trick him. The story of the seven maidens in heaven, who is the husband gonna be with when he dies.
Yeah,
I got the story right. All of those are examples and so forth. But as we know also, the regular Bible, the 66 and the 72 Bible, does not have all of the stories of Jesus.
They're not all
the stories. And there's a lot of stories about that. And why was that eliminated? That's another question too. We are toward the end of our show. I want to finish up with this though. Mental health and religion and your belief in God has a lot to do with your mental health. It does. Yeah. Even if you say you're an atheist, you still can't evade the spiritual nature that we have. So it has a lot to do with that. How can we maintain mental health in this crazy world that we live in? I talked about with him, Brother Sadiki, and I went down to Galveston with my brother Times, and because I was going through a difficult time, but being able to rejuvenate in Galveston and talk with Brother Times helped me to reset. But it's not an easy thing, because at any time we can have things that can affect our spirit and our mind and disrupt our energy so bad that it can cause serious problems. How do you maintain, Brother Sadiki?
I'm a pretty simple dude, man. I'm kind of realizing that I may even be a little borderline autistic, you would think, maybe. But because of that, I get fairly anal about structure. So, Brother Times, when you talk about the idea, or Baruti, when you talk about the Jesus's proclamation that all the rest of the laws are built on these two, I understand that intrinsically. I'm a mathematician. I believe in things building on each other, and that connection allows it, and really, I mean, that possibility allows us to do anything, good or bad, in this world. And I think if we just focus on trying to stay connected and follow the first couple rules, everything else falls in place. Even when you get off track, if you can make sure that you are treating your brothers like yourself, and as you would treat yourself, and staying true to the understanding that we're part of a universe that's bigger than us, that we need to nurture and be part of. I think everything else falls in place after that.
Understood, my brother. I appreciate you joining us. Would you like to share any information? We are on Facebook, by the way. If you want to, you could put it in the chat, or just share. And if you don't want to, no problem. You don't have to.
I haven't been very social media savvy, but I will do more. So not right now I won't, but maybe later in future events I will.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you for joining us. Brother Times, how can we find peace? Or let me not say that. How can we maintain? Because finding peace and maintaining peace all the time is an impossibility, because we all going to have challenges, ups and downs and so forth. But how can we find that common ground and not go crazy?
I think it has a lot to do with your inner man, your inner being. And I call it grounding. Sometimes we just get chaotic inside of ourselves. And I teach people all the time in my practice how to get grounded. Sometimes you just got to go outside and hug a tree, man. You know what I mean?
Break it down to the simple stuff,
Oh yeah, just go out to a tree or walk around barefooted and just reconnect, because that car, if you're not connected, that means you're disconnected. And when you're disconnected, you can't operate. It's really
you can operate, but you're causing disharmony.
Oh, yes, sir.
Amongst all of the people that you are all part of and around. So
absolutely, yes,
and
sir.
not just people, but other things too. Everything that we're connected to. So
yes, sir.
Yeah, trying to stay connected helps that so much. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, because I can be a literal wrecking ball if you think about it. Just me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the world is symptomatic of all of that. So we
and you can feel happy doing that. There are people that are happy feeling like they're a wrecking ball.
Yes, and they're really disconnected, and they really addicted to that because that feels normal to them. I hate to bring politics in, but think about Donald J. Trump. Good example. He had one man human wrecking ball. I don't know. I mean, thank God I'm not that disconnected, but some people just happy that way because that's all they know. They never really had those deep connections, and you can call them spiritual connections, having that peace in their heart. But that's all we designed to operate in harmony. But when things get messed up, man, it's hard to get back on. That's why we gotta stop. We gotta connect, hug a tree, try to ground ourselves, because once you become a wrecking ball, it's so easy to stay on that track.
Oh yeah, it's easy to justify any decision.
Yeah.
Well, we've had a deep conversation about many things about God, but the main thing I wanted to talk about is how we can find a way to maintain and not go crazy. Hopes and dreams and mental health, because a lot of times we have hopes, but they are unrealistic hopes. But who can define what is an unrealistic hope? Now, to give you an example, when we were slaves, to become a millionaire was an unrealistic hope because we wouldn't have had that opportunity. And that was an example of an unrealistic hope at that particular time. It's not an unrealistic hope today. But if a Black person had went with that particular mindset, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, then they might have fallen into kind of a crazy state of mind because they weren't dealing with the reality that they were living in. So being able to live in the reality of your circumstances is very important, but you have to decide that. And then you have to decide what is your ceiling or your window or your limit, and nobody can decide that. And then you can even change that. If this year, I can get this high, but next year I can go 10 steps higher. So it's a constant thing. But to stay grounded, as you say, and as you all say, is very important to be able to go back and be able to remind yourself, I'm a human being, I have God power, but I also have physical and limitations of being a human being, but I have great power also. So that's an important thing. This is the 136th episode of the Sourceseeker Hour. I thank you all, gentlemen, for joining me. We're going to have part 2 on September 7th. I have some guests on that day. Our next episode is Black Houston, Black America with Brother Cedric Keeler. And on the 31st, I'm going to talk to Brother Mo McCoy in Las Vegas. We're going to talk about the things happening there. I visited there several times, and we're growing in different things. I've been going across the country and going to different places and seeing different things. And I'm going to try to bring all of those things from a perspective to the Sourceseeker Hour. And I thank you all for joining me. And do you have a last comment that you want to share, Brother Don, Brother Sadiki?
Peace.
All right, peace, Brother Times.
God bless you.
Good. Well, we'll see you next time on the Sourceseeker Hour. Thank you and